Picture this. You are stuck in a prison cell. You are stripped of your own clothing, given a uniform, deloused, and only referred to by the number on your uniform. Now imagine that on top of this, you have to deal with the brutal behavior of the guards, who seem to be set out on humiliating you. They have a uniform as well, but instead they're also given sunglasses and batons to discipline you. How would you react? Would you go into a state of emotional distress? Or would you perhaps go on a hunger strike? This is exactly what Zimbardo tried to figure out in the Stanford prison experiment, which we're going to be looking at today for the AQA A-level psychology specification. Zimbardo recruited volunteer participants by offering them $15 a day to take part in the study. They were then tested for emotional stability and then randomly allocated to the role of a prisoner or a guard. Participants who were randomly allocated to the role of a prisoner were unexpectedly arrested at their home, stripped and deloused and only referred to by their prison number. This is a form of dehumanization, where the people who were assigned to the role of a prisoner were made to feel less than and subjected to subpar conditions once they got there. However, on the other hand, guards were given sunglasses, batons, and uniforms. This is a form of de-individuation, where the guards were made to feel no longer personally responsible for their own actions, but instead part of a larger group, and acting on behalf of the system rather than their own motivations. Zimbardo found that this resulted in hunger strikes, with some believing that they could not go home, even though at the beginning of the study they were told that they could. Even though the study was meant to go on for 12 days, it was stopped after 6, due to the extreme psychological harm that the participants were going through. Prisoners became a lot more submissive, and 4 people even ended up leaving after 4 days. Zimbardo himself was a superintendent at this prison, and he also found that he was conforming to his designed role rather than his own intuition. The reason why a lot of the prisoners felt this way was due to the brutality of the guards' behavior. So this shows that people do in fact conform to social roles, despite morality being a huge factor in our behavior. Now, as we know, we do need to be able to evaluate the studies that we look at for the AQA A-level psychology specification. So now we're going to be taking a look at the weaknesses and strengths of Zimbardo's Stanford prison experiment. One of the most obvious problems with Zimbardo's study is the fact that it had a lot of ethical issues. 4 participants had to be released early due to severe emotional distress. This includes extreme anxiety, crying, as well as disorganized thinking. This suggests the study caused genuine psychological harm, which goes against the BPS's current standards of ensuring that the researcher ensures that their participants don't go through any harm, psychological or physical, during their study. Therefore, it could be argued that Zimbardo failed to fulfill his duty of care. Now, the next weakness is individual differences. Separate research found that 1/3 of the guards engaged in genuinely brutal behavior towards prisoners, whereas 1/3 were fair and applied the rules at hand, without cruelty. And 1/3 even actively tried to help the prisoners, for example by offering cigarettes or doing small favors. This shows that despite the system set up in play, the guards are perfectly capable of exercising the right and wrong choices. Therefore, it could be argued that their behavior was due to dispositional factors, rather than conformity to social roles, which goes against Zimbardo's conclusion from the study. Now, one positive, or not positive depending on how you see it, there is real-life support for the Stanford prison experiment. However, this real-life support comes from the actual abuse carried out by American soldiers at the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq in 2003, where guards systematically humiliated, abused, and mistreated the prisoners. And this behavior is mirrored closely in the Stanford prison experiment, remarkably closely at that. This real-world parallel increases the ecological validity of Zimbardo's conclusion that situational factors can overcome our own morality, and suggests that his findings have genuine relevance beyond the lab and can be applied to real-life settings. Now, that pretty much sums up the content that you need to know for Zimbardo's prison experiment. And remember, while these videos are a great way for you to improve your understanding and get all of the content in a really quick, concise way, I've also created detailed revision notes and summaries to help you save time and secure those A's and A stars. You can find sample essays that scored top marks, exam tips that you don't usually see, and bonus evaluations that can help you stay ahead. So if you're interested, please do consider visiting my website or my Gumroad, both of the links are down below. And also, if you want access to regular updates and freebies, consider signing up to my email newsletter. If you're looking for study tips and exam motivation, I do have a Pinterest, so consider checking out those links below and giving it a follow if you think that will be useful towards you.